looking at global immigration patterns, saying that this isn't even my opinion, this is the opinion of the world. That when it comes to people of the world deciding where they might want to move to, people immigrate into white nations. They immigrate with an E, emigrate out of non-white nations. This is the trend. Millions of people every year, and it's never the reverse. It's an objective statement to say that the non-white world see white civilization as very attractive. The other way around isn't true and has never been true at any meaningful level. There are rare white people who want to go live in Africa or want to go live in India, but we all know that's the vanishingly small minority of white people.
The destruction of human freedom. But like every one of the superstates that preceded it, it has one iron rule. Logic is an enemy and truth is a menace.
Good afternoon and welcome to Beholden To Truth. It is your humble host, Joshua, here with you for another one of our fun happy hour sessions, sitting outside of the gym, sipping our pre-workout, getting caffeinated. Got ourselves a chest day on our hands, best day of the week, so I'm looking forward to going in there and making some gains. But as always, before we go and make our physical gains, we have to make our mental gains. So these happy hour sessions, I started this tradition several years ago where I sat in my car for about an hour before the gym and I would either read my Bible, I would catch up on the news wire, or I would sit down and vlog. And so these became public vlogs for you guys to consume, whereas previously they started out as kind of my own self-investment time. You know what? There's so much gold in each of these videos, I figured I should probably start sharing them. So that's how we ended up with this happy hour tradition. I have my pre-workouts, I got my iPad here, I got some notes, some stuff I want to talk to you guys about. Just last night, I had an interview 2.5 hours long with a guy named Adam who runs Mainstream Dissident, which is a new platform that is emerging on YouTube and other social media platforms. Pro-white guy, Christian nationalist, white nationalist, if you want to use those words to describe our movement. I thought it was a great interview. You know, I like to help anybody out who's trying to build their platform. His is still in the early accumulation stage, so that is going to be dropping in full uncut form on my Substack for my exclusive members. And then I'll be taking 20-30 minute segments of it and releasing them throughout the next week or so on YouTube. And it was a great interview. It really was. I love sitting down with anybody who is like-minded. Not that I only interview people or sit down for interviews with people who share my beliefs. I'm happy to debate them with people who staunchly oppose me. But sitting down with somebody who knows what's going on and just breaking bread, cracking a metaphorical beer with them, it's soothing for all of us who have a hard time finding like-minded people. So, it was a good time. I think you're really going to like it. We talked about how to answer some of these very difficult and confrontational questions. Oh, you say you care so much about white people, but you're a Christian. How do you reconcile those beliefs? We talk about physical fitness and its role in all of our lives and in this mission of America First. We talk about Nick Fuentes and his position as the leader of America First and some of the recent criticisms that some pro-white people have thrown his way. We talked about a lot. As I said, it was 2.5 hours. So I think you guys are really going to enjoy that content. Look forward to sharing that with you guys. But today's primary topic that we're going to be breaking down, yet again, we have some e-drama. We have some friendly fire coming from within the ranks of the pro-white movement. Are you surprised? I'm not surprised. Some of it's inevitable. Some of it is orchestrated intentionally by people who want our movement to fail. It's somewhat discouraging. You know, everybody, when they first find out about white genocide, they become animated. They want to talk to their friends and family. And if they're ambitious enough, they create platforms, whether they're anonymous or they're going out there with their name, face, and likeness, being a podcaster, recording videos, whatever. And we all think that, oh, this is easy. I just got to talk to my other fellow white people. They're not going to want to be a minority in America in 20 years. Right? They like European civilization. Surely we'll be able to hold hands and march forward in this mission. And it's a pretty naive understanding of the situation at hand. So We're going to talk about this beef that has been boiling for now, I don't know, a couple of years between Aarvol of Return to the Land, Eric Orwell, and Nick Fuentes. And just earlier this year, I was super happy and excited. I sat down and recorded a full, I think it was 1 or 2 hour reaction video to Nick finally sitting down and squashing the beef with Aarvol. So we thought. And the root of this beef is simply due to the fact that these two white individuals who know what's going on, who want to protect white people, they have different strategies for doing so. And that's fine. That's a good thing. We need people of different talents and blessings to pursue their unique solutions for bringing awareness to our fellow white people and protecting the majority in America. It's okay that they have different solutions and different abilities to pursue those solutions. For those who don't know, Return to the Land, which is Eric Orwell, aka Aarvol's business or strategic endeavor, is to create protected white communities all throughout the United States. They do these large land buys, huge chunks of acres of land where they organize white people to move in, and it's not a rent arrangement and the people don't own the property. I think they're owned by a collective trust. I'm not fully savvy on the legality of all this, and that's actually part of the mission, is to test the legality of what some may call legal segregation, that says this is a land for white people. This batch of acres is for white people to come and have families and be around their own. Obviously, segregation is illegal formally, but there are certain legal maneuvers that one can make to arrange such accommodations. And that's what Aarvol is stress testing right now with Return to the Land. And it's, in my opinion, still in the early stages. I think at this point they may have 100, 200 white individuals living in these lands. And that's great. I'm happy. That's what I want. I want pro-white separate spaces for us to be amongst our own, preserve our culture, enjoy homogeneity. This needs to be a nationwide thing, and it needs to be in the millions, not the hundreds. And it has to start somewhere. Someone has to start that initiative. Someone has to test these legal maneuvers to see if they stand up to the inevitable attacks of people who, for some strange reason, want forced cohabitation of the ethnic groups, forced diversity. And so these things have to be grown. Right now is the early stage, the early evolution. And so these things have to be tested, and they have to be popularized, normalized, promoted. And so it was a important time when Nick finally sat down and said, with Aarvol, you're going about white preservation with the priority of creating white communities, literally building homes, building internal networks for white people to support each other. That's a good thing. Obviously, it's necessary. It's part of the preservation of white people, and I support your work. It's all good, man, okay? My job, speaking, as Nick's job is not that. Nick's job is not to find the best carpenters and electricians and plumbers and builders to build white communities. That's not Nick's job. Obviously, Nick's job is to be a political figure and to accumulate a political following, to go and influence politics in America, the government, the media, the education system. That's Nick's role. And Nick has maintained for his entire running of America First that I'm not throwing shade on your work. I want you to continue doing that work, but my work is obviously impacting far, far more people, exponentially more people, millions and millions of people watch Nick's show. They then go and talk to their fellow white people. They collect the education required to talk about these controversial subjects. They gain the confidence required to stand for white identity, because these things are not easy to learn how to articulate. Watching somebody like Jared Taylor in his 30 years, his body of work, doing debates on stage, doing television appearances, writing in journals, running American Renaissance, hosting conferences, that is a suite of education specifically about being pro-white that takes time to consume, takes time to rehearse and practice so that you can regurgitate it in a way that is morally unimpeachable to your fellow white people. That's the value of Nick and what he is doing. And it's not just the white identity aspect, it is also exposing Jewish influence to everybody. The blacks need to know what's up with the origins of slavery, okay? Everybody needs to know what's up with who created feminism, who created communism, who created the push for the LGBT movement, who normalized pornography and abortion. That's a message that needs to land across all ethnic soils. That's not just for white people. Meeting the people that you actually want to meet this day and age is basically impossible. Well, I have a solution to these problems. You're wearing your anti-Zog merchandise, that cutie from across the gym. She knows what the Zog is. She knows that Save Europa is code for white genocide. Or if it's somebody of the same gender, boom, you just got yourself a new best friend. This is your opportunity. Everybody's always complaining about how hard it is to find people who know what's really going on. Well, this is it. This is how you broadcast those beliefs to the world. And so that's obviously very, very, very different than the number one sole priority that should be the foremost of all of our attention is how to retreat into majority white places, physical lands, and build our own communities. There is the information war that has to be led by hand by somebody, and then there is the simultaneous priority of protected spaces for white people. And so, in my opinion, I obviously think that Nick's contribution to the pro-white community has dwarfed what Aarvol has done. It's not even close in comparison. That's not to say Aarvol's work isn't important and that I wouldn't personally help whatever it is that he is trying to do at any point in time. And Nick said the same thing back when they sat down and squashed the beef several months ago. I think it was like back in May, somewhere around there. Unfortunately, that peace treaty did not last. And the reason it started to fall apart yet again is because about a week ago, Nick was doing what he usually does on his show, getting rather riled up and emotional about the Jewish influence in our country, the Zionist-occupied government, and he was talking about the political movement of America First, saying, listen, America First, before anything else, before explicitly being pro-white or explicitly being a Christian nation, it's also about making sure America is a sovereign country. Because if we're a sovereign country, then we can protect whites, then we can protect the Christian moral fabric of our nation. But if America is not sovereign, then those are hopeless endeavors in the first place. And so anybody, black, white, Asian, brown, whatever, who sees America being a sovereign nation as the highest priority before all else, you are welcome. You are invited to be America First. Yes, that does include black people. That includes even Jews who have converted to Christianity, who see the need for America to be a majority white country, not beholden to foreign influence, particularly the influence of Israel. It's an open invitation to all people who care about the sovereignty of America. That's what America First is first. And then within that, assuming we achieve sovereignty, then we can protect the white majority, then we can protect Christendom. And he said those words on his platform. And then people took his words, clipped them, as always, a 30, 60-second comment where he said, black, white, brown, I don't care, whatever, you can be part of America First. He's speaking about the sovereignty of our nation. And he said, listen, if you were born here, then you should care about America. If you're born here, you're an American, obviously you should care about American sovereignty. People took those statements and said, okay, well, if Nick just said you're born here, then you're American, well, then I guess that means Nick endorses birthright citizenship. And so if you're not familiar with that political lingo, that's in reference to what the Democrats have stood up, which is inviting in people from all over the world or allowing them to come in illegally. They have a baby here because it's born on the soil. It is their birthright that they are citizens. That's what birthright citizenship means. Nick has a long track record going back 10 years of being against birthright citizenship. No, because you snuck into our country illegally, popped out a baby, no, that baby nor the parents are entitled to citizenship in America. Obviously, that's just common sense. That's not a sustainable framework for the demographic of the country. It's not a sustainable economic model. Nick has never once endorsed birthright citizenship. He has always stood for the opposite. But when he made the remark saying, listen, if you're born in America, then it's kind of common sense that you should consider America to be the most important nation to you. And assuming that's true about you, then yes, you are America first. I know this is like super nuanced and hard to understand, but as always, Nick gets clipped out of context without the full commentary, without people having watched the years of dialogue on his show, without also including his hundreds of remarks about birthright citizenship, to say, oh, did you look at that? Here's Nick saying he's pro-white, but then in the very next breath, he says that if you're born in America, you're just as American as everybody else. And the people who are clipping this content are not the left. They're not the ones clipping this remark and saying, oh, well, that's weird. I guess Nick is on our side now. Even he stands for birthright citizenship. No. The people who are clipping these remarks about being born in America, therefore you're an American, you're invited to be America first, the people taking that and implying it means Nick supports birthright citizenship are actually people on the right, and specifically Wignats, Wigger nationalists, people who are pro-white, oftentimes being far less intelligent, far less articulated, far less defensible. And I've seen this time and time again with my 5 years now of standing up for white people. Many times the attacks come from within the house. They are friendly fire. When I say that Nick being a quarter Mexican is seriously not a big deal, look at him. Does he look like a Mexican? It's going to be fine, okay? Seriously, it's not that big of a deal. Nick having Kanye West as a good friend of his is not that big of a deal. As the Bible tells us, judge a tree by its fruit. What has Nick produced? It doesn't matter that his grandfather was part Mexican. It doesn't matter that he has this black pornographer friend, is another thing that people are throwing around out there, saying, how can he be a Christian role model for the community when he's friends with and hangs out with and supports Kanye West, who parades his wife around like a porn star, says stuff about wanting to create a pornography company, blah, 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 blah. The reason that these people are called Wigger nationalists is because the level of intellectualism behind their arguments, whenever you look at their tweets, if they even bother to record long format conversations with their actual identity behind them, most of them just do this work anonymously because they're cowards. But when you look at what they are putting out there in their attempts to stand for white people, it's not the same long format articulation with biblical scriptural backing. It's not creating a thoughtful dialogue about the relationship of the different races and establishing that there is an equality amongst them. That's not an invitation that says we all need to live on top of each other, but there is very little respect given to other races. And that's not to say I'm not sitting here pretending like I am the most Christian devout person when it comes to speaking about race and giving them the equal respect. No, I don't believe that any of the other races of the world have created civilizations that are remotely as safe, technologically advanced, prosperous, successful as the European people. Okay, so that's just my frank opinion about the racial civilizational situation. But being able to explain these things in a way that is not just insulting all of the other races, it's just expressing preference, actually putting down some intellectual thought, some research behind these things, providing all of the data, looking at global immigration patterns, saying that this isn't even my opinion, this is the opinion of the world. That when it comes to people of the world deciding where they might want to move to, people immigrate into white nations, they immigrate with an E, emigrate out of non-white nations. This is the trend. Millions of people every year, and it's never the reverse. It's an objective statement to say that the non-white world see white civilization as very attractive. The other way around isn't true and has never been true at any meaningful level. There are rare white people who want to go live in Africa or want to go live in India, but we all know that's the vanishingly small minority of white people. Anyway, the Wigger nationalist people who are now attacking Nick Fuentes and insinuating that he is okay with anchor babies, who are insinuating that he is now okay with trying to form this big tent coalition that doesn't even have a problem with multiculturalism anymore. That's not what Nick stands for. That's not his goal. If you just watch a single one of his full 2-hour episodes, you'll very quickly find that out. Just go and cite any number of the 1 million clips of Media Matters, Right Wing Watch, the Anti-Defamation League, the Southern Poverty Law Center, all of the left-leaning institutions who don't find it very difficult to find Nick's views on race. Seems like they got it pretty clear. But for some reason, the Wignats are confused. And so here's the thing about the Wignat community. I think a lot of them are hopelessly naive. Like they're actually living in a delusional fantasy. And I hate talking about my other white people this way, but this just needs to be said. This came up in the interview last night. In America, there are 350 million some odd people living on this continental country. Okay? Of that 350 million, 140 million of them are not white. So let me ask you a very basic question. If you sincerely believe that the solution for the ethnic problems, demographic problems in America is taking all the non-white people and shoving them out of the country, go live somewhere else. If that is your solution, which a large slice of the Wignat white nationalist community believe is the necessary outcome, are you aware of the fact that there has never been a population movement of 140 million people ever in recorded human history? So you're proposing we are going to take 140 million people and send them all throughout the world, back to Africa, back to the Middle East, back to Central and South America. How? How are you going to do that? More importantly, how are you going to do that without enormous amounts of bloodshed? And a lot of them are so stupid they would say, so what? I don't care if we have to kill a whole bunch of them. If that's what's necessary in order to protect the progeny of our people, then okay. I mean, this is seriously the thinking of large slices of the Wignat community. Here's the problem with that. It wouldn't just be casualties on their side. It would be mass casualties of white people who already have a negative birth rate. Arabs don't. Hispanics don't. Black people don't. It is the white people globally who have a negative population. So if you're insinuating that you're willing to start a kinetic war in America within our borders for the sake of somehow magically deporting 140 million people, mostly against their will, this is where I said it's just delusion. Do you think I'm happy about this? Do you think I'm happy with the fact that we're stuck with 140 million non-white people in America? Obviously not. Watch any of my content, I'm obviously not happy with that. Do I think that we can mitigate some of that? Absolutely. On a weekly basis, I talk about the need for mass deportations. But quantifying what that means in realistic terms on what timeline, that's the role of politics. That's the role of our thought leaders. We have to go and figure out how much is this going to cost. When people resist this, who are here legally, how do we handle that situation? Is there any way to incentivize them to leave? Is there any way over time to reinstitute segregation and install the freedom of association that we desire? This is the role of people who are actually intellectual, politically minded, who want to pursue a Christian solution that is nonviolent to the racial problems in America. None of that exists in these Wignat communities that are just like, I just fucking hate black people. They could all die. I don't even care. If we have to kill them to get them out of here, I don't care. Okay, that's not America first. That's not what we believe. That's not what any Christian should believe. And so these people are fundamentally dangerous to our movement when they think that they are part of it, when they're very clearly not. And the friendly fire coming from within, them trying to take shots at Nick Fuentes and misrepresent his beliefs, is not helping at a time when Nick is finally going mainstream. And that was Nick's primary grievance. He's saying, okay, right now, when I'm on this generational run, I'm in the New York Times. Okay, The Atlantic is writing articles about me on a weekly basis. I just sat down with Tucker Carlson to talk to the entire conservative world, including your boomer parents. I'm delivering massive multi-million victories for the white people, the sovereignty of America, exposing Jewish influence. And now my fellow white people are going to come out here and misrepresent my beliefs ignorantly and try to put forth these delusional fantasies that make the entire movement look bad, that somehow we're going to deport 140 million people without violence, that it wouldn't cause massive casualties on our own side, that's acceptable. We don't need them. We don't need their commentary. And we're probably not going to win their support. When we say that America has to be a Christian nation, a lot of the Wignat community have elevated race to a point of idolatry. Or they're just pagan from the beginning. They don't even believe in idolatry. They're atheists. They don't care about the necessity of Christian civilization. They don't even understand that Western civilization, as it is called, is the outgrowth of the gospel. Europe, America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, these countries wouldn't look the way they do without the Christian guardrails that guided them. They don't believe that. And so when it comes to the relationship that Nick has, or anybody who is pro-white has, with individuals who are not white, let's take, for example, Kanye West. You had Aarvol himself throwing out these pithy remarks. Oh, so Nick is going to talk negatively about his other pro-white people, the Wignat community. Meanwhile, he's going to go and hang out and socialize and support and promote Kanye West, a black pornographer, a degenerate rapper. That's what I'm talking about, this reductive outlook that says anybody who is not white can't be helpful to us. If you associate with anybody who is not white, you are a saboteur, you can't be trusted, you're not really pro-white. What, you have a non-white friend? I guess you're not actually out there defending white people. This is so unbelievably short-sighted. I mean, look at the fruit, once again, that was born from Nick's relationship with Kanye West. Look at the two of them going on Alex Jones, the two of them going on Tim Pool, Kanye West getting Nick a personal sit-down with the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Oh, but I guess that none of that should have ever happened, though, because Kanye West is a black guy, right? Right, Aarvol, right, all you other Wignat people who think that relationships with non-white people inherently can't be useful because those people are non-white. Think this through. It's not that complicated. Nick is a strategic, somewhat Machiavellian character who understands the long game here. Yes, there are going to be people who are not white who we need to form relationships with out of self-interest to advance our cause. If that's just being pragmatic, that's understanding how politics works. That's understanding how the economy works. That's understanding how our safety works. And I really want to point this one out. If your desire is to bring back segregation, which some call freedom of association, if your desire is to say, hey, you know what? White people want neighborhoods of their own. They want schools of their own. If you're a white entrepreneur and you only want to hire white people and you don't want to have to hide that fact, you don't want to be legally pursued because you only hire white people. If that's what you want, then we're going to need the peaceful cooperation and agreement of non-white people. If they're constantly fighting back against that and calling us white supremacists and Nazis and working with the Jews to undermine all of those endeavors, that doesn't make it easier for us. Rather, if we talk to the black audience through somebody like Kanye West, and they sit down and have a conversation saying with, hey man, Kanye, you're black. Don't you understand that there is something unique about African culture? I'm sure Kanye would agree. I'm sure most black people would agree. Okay? Well, how would you go about protecting black culture? Well, I think black people should probably keep it in the family. I think they should marry each other. They should have black children. They should, in respect to their ancestors, protect their reputation, protect their historical narrative, whatever it is they believe. If they believe they built Egypt and they believe they built the entire world and invented everything, if that's their version of history, by all means, keep teaching that to each other. Fine. If that's your culture, if you like this degenerate music and you've decided that's your culture and you want to dress this way and you want to talk this way and you want that to be what being African means, that's your prerogative as a people. Cool. But the agreement is white people get to do the same. White people get to insist that we only want to marry our own and have white children, and we want our neighborhoods to be white, and we want to go to white schools, and we want our political leaders to be white, and we want our culture to be preserved, our English language, our arts. We want the architecture, we want the societal fabric to reflect the European history. Okay, so when you come to that mutual understanding that there is nothing immoral, it's certainly not sinful to say there are different nations of the world. And I'm not speaking about the names of countries, I'm talking about the people groups as they are described in the Bible. Yes, there are different nations of the world. No, it is not wrong to feel most comfortable amongst the people of your own nation. That's just human design. That's how God designed it. In fact, God installed borders around the different nations of the people. See the book of Acts, see the Tower of Babel, because he knew that tribalism is baked into the human experience. It just is the way it is. And so if we can articulate these things, shaking hands with people of other races and saying, hey, you're Asian, would you like it if China, Japan, Korea, all these other nations became minority Asian? Of course they wouldn't like that. Do you think it's right for somebody, some white Christian, to go and move to China and elevate themselves in society to the point where they are the richest person in the country and they are lobbying your politicians or even potentially occupying your government? How would you like a white prime minister? How would you like a white president in your country? How would you like half of your government to be run by white people, despite the fact that you're an Asian country? Would you like that? Of course they wouldn't like that, and that's why China is 92% Chinese and Japan is 97% Japanese, because no, they don't want that, and no, they aren't bad people for not wanting that. They're not bigots, they're not racial supremacists, they're just normal human beings who love their own. So when we just have these conversations with people of other races and we establish a mutual understanding with them through communication, we can actually reach the outcome we all want that says, all right, fine, you want an Asian neighborhood, go over there. You want a black neighborhood, go over there. You want a white county, go over there. We can get to this place. But what we can't do is say every time you try to simply have a conversation with people of other race, heaven forbid, form a productive friendship or working relationship with somebody of another race, oh, well, that's clearly indicative of the fact that you're not really as staunchly pro-white as you say. That's just ignorance. That's not understanding politics. That's not understanding the 350 million population that we currently have to wrangle into an understanding of freedom of association. Because we don't want to do this by gunpoint. That's not the solution. That only leads to violence.
The few brave men who have actually tried to go out and do something about white genocide or talk about Jewish influence, the Zionist-occupied government, we all know that they get crucified, their careers get destroyed, and so we need to find ways to support each other. One of the ways that I have done that is by creating my Substack, where there are exclusive early access to documentaries, my weekly vlogs, there are ebooks there. There's even an opportunity to set up a one-on-one 30-minute Ask Me Anything if you'd like. All of the proceeds from my Substack, from my YouTube channel, from the merch gets reinvested in the platform. I use that to pay my employees. I use that to buy the equipment that I need, the cameras, the lights, the MacBook, all the books, all of the software, pay for marketing, everything else, but also it protects my literal life. So if you want to help out, please do head on to Substack, get yourself a subscription. Thank you. I appreciate it. America first and Christ is King.